Another road win in the SEC. Your Auburn Tigers take down the LSU Tigers in Baton Rouge by the score of 67-49. We're going to talk about it all here. The scores, the stats, storylines, all of that in between. We're going to talk about it here on another post-game reaction show for Auburn men's basketball. War Eagle, and welcome back. Whether you are just a member of the Auburn family or you consider yourself a member of the E2C Network family, we appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, and spending some time here on E2C Network live with us for another post-game reaction show. Before we get into all that, always want to remind you to do a couple things for us to start off our live streams. If you do enjoy this type of content and you think it's deserving of that, please do smash the like button wherever you're watching, whether it's here on YouTube, whether it's on Facebook, on Twitter, however you got here. We appreciate you being here and hanging out with us. And if you'll use this as your check-in period time to post where you're watching from, your city, your state. We had somebody from the United Arab Emirates last night, the UAE, check in. If you're international, let me know that you're here too, even if it's on the replay. Always love hearing people in the Auburn family from across our country and our world. And thank you guys for being here. What we're going to do to get started, as you guys do all of those things to get us started tonight, is we're going to our normal post-game reaction show. I know a lot of you are probably a little bit confused by this because Wednesday night is typically our Auburn family night where we just kind of hash it out and open up the phone lines for everybody. Not going to be doing that tonight, although the Booster Club members do have the call link for, as they do for most of the post-game reaction shows, if they'd like to call in tonight and talk about the basketball game. So we're not going to have one of those tonight, but we will get back to that next week. Anytime we have a basketball game interfering with that, that's going to happen. So that's one on the table. I'm going to talk about some of the storylines that I noticed. We'll go through the stats, but I most importantly want to hear from you and what you thought about the game. Let me say hello to a lot of people checking in. We got Layton's here, WT, Thomas, Blake checking in. How about that walk-on guy? He's not even a walk-on anymore. I believe he's got a full scholarship down. Normal guy. What up, Robert? Good to see you. Linda. Lots of good people here already in the chat. So thank you guys so much for being here. Leighton kind of puts it into perspective for us. Great win, a little bit of up and down, but closed out strong. Love to see Leor Berman kickstart the offense with those threes. If you do not love Leor Berman, you are not an Auburn fan. Leor Berman is a great story of success, biding your time, waiting for your opportunity, and when the moment arises, seizing that moment, taking hold of it, and not letting go. Now, let's not operate just in the world of hyperbole, and I don't think Leor thinks this in any way, too. He's not going to be a starter. He's not going to play super minutes all throughout the season, but what he is doing is when he comes in, there is no drop-off whatsoever on the court. Now, he may do things differently. He may not be as fast as some, or he may be, quicker in some areas. But what he brings in is trust. They harped on that a lot tonight on the broadcast about how much Bruce Pearl trusts Leor Berman, and you can see why. Anytime he makes a mistake, he makes up for it, and he's a threat to score out there too, which is doubly awesome too. Jalen putting in the work tonight. He must be a nightmare to guard. Jalen Williams continues to do Jalen Williams things, and I love that man for it. I continue to be the man that says he was the first Jalen Williams fan club member, and nobody else can take that from me. I love me some Jalen Williams. Yahari says, can one of you articulate Auburn's offensive identity? I have no clue what they are running. Well, it's a great question. I think the only answer that I can give you, though, is whatever works. I mean, honestly, I think that's what's going on here. It's whatever sticks, whatever works. We're going to go with the hot hand at the time. Bruce lets his players play with an amount of freedom that, frankly, I got to play with some towards my end of my high school year when our coach allowed us to do that. We all just opened up. Were we a little bit more sloppy at times? Sure. But we felt a freedom and a creativity there that allow us to play within ourselves, but amongst each other a little bit better. And that's the identity. It's an open book, basically, with a plan there in place, obviously. But willingness to let them do things like Wendell Green shooting from the logo, which he did again tonight. Rise Life says Lior is him. Chick-fil-A, baby, checking in from Chick-fil-A. Love to hear it. Devin, good to see you. A lot of people are raving about Berman tonight and his play, and you should. Lior Berman is him tonight, whatever way you want to phrase that. Let's just go ahead and look at his stat line tonight, because it's not often that we get to gush about Lior Berman. So when you look at his stat line, not a starter tonight, but 8 points, 3 for 4 from the field, 1 for 2 from the 3-point arc, 1 for 1 free throws wise, 1 rebound. And that's basically his stat line in 16 minutes of play. So when you look at that in the traditional sense, you're like, okay, looks like just an average night for a regular player. This guy, though, for the amount of minutes that he typically gets, it's awesome. We never want to see a player get hurt and then someone benefit from that, because that means obviously one of your players is hurting down, that being Chris Moore right now. But you also love to see the opportunities being present themselves to certain players, especially guys like Lior Berman, and then them taking advantage of it. It's really, really good. Devin says, I'm honestly a bit surprised that we were so dominant. Start of the second half was a little rocky, but we got it together. I feel like I've talked about this story a lot this year, that it's a tale of two halves with Auburn, that they are very cold to come out and then figure it out as we go along and kind of pull away, or don't ever figure it out. But it's usually kind of, I shouldn't say usually, just a lot of the times this year we've talked about two different halves story here. Auburn kind of asserted itself in the first half as it went along, and then chose not to assert itself until it got down to about 2 points, I think is what it was, coming out of the second half, and then just kind of pulled away and never let go of it again. I'm not surprised that we were so dominant now that I've watched LSU play. Again, I say this very similarly like I do with the football team. An LSU team that is down right now is never an LSU team that you should expect not to have talent that can just, like, I can't snap. I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of insight into me. I'm a person that doesn't know how to snap, but just like that, can turn that talent on and make it a very troublesome night for you, pretty much in any sport, especially the big three: football, baseball, and basketball. So the talent is there for them. They've got a pretty good coach, at least from where he came from. I think with given some time, they'll be a lot better, but you can definitely see this is a team that is struggling to keep it together and come together and find an identity themselves. So if you thought Auburn's offensive identity was questionable, if you thought Auburn's offense was just not consistent enough, I present to you folks, at least based off tonight, LSU. That was not a good offense, folks. Not to say that ours was outstanding at all tonight, but we are not the worst offense in the SEC. I can say that after playing LSU. Officiating was a little funky, but glad we came up with the win, and Dylan Cardwell's dunk was incredible. So Jessica, my wife, does not like it when I scream at when dunks like that happen, and you can imagine the decibel level I hit, because we're just sitting there on the couch watching the first half, and then she's kind of zoned out, and all of a sudden I just jump up and just yell, and she has no clue why I'm doing that, and she gets offended by it. But I'm sorry. Anytime moments like that happen, I'm going to lose my mind. Dylan Cardwell to Wendell Green is bad news for the other team. It is. They have got some type of little rapport there that is working. It doesn't happen a lot during a game, but when it does, woo, that is a really, really nice thing to see. That was a nice little throwdown by him, and a good move by Wendell Green. In hindsight, I thought he was just throwing it up in the air to start with, but then he found his man, Dylan Cardwell. Still a lot of love for Lior tonight, you guys. I love him too, man. Tyler, you have never seen me play basketball. And it's been Blake's seen me play basketball, and he knew me back when I was probably a little bit more incompetent than competent. So Blake knows that a little bit about that. Chris Moore was all smiles on the bench tonight, which was awesome to see. He will be back soon. Hats off to Lior. So here's the great thing about this dynamic of whether it's Chris Moore, whether it's Lior Berman, whether, whoever got hurt and who's ever taken advantage of the opportunity to play more, especially with the the story of Chris. Chris is a guy that has paid his dues and knows that coach will use him again and probably in a starting capacity when he comes back in, despite sitting out with an injury as soon as he's healthy. So this is a guy that's comfortable in his skin, knows that he's not going to lose anything because he got hurt. So he can celebrate his teammates. And I think all the teammates can do that because everybody's finally kind of realizing, wow, coach is trying to find us all minutes. It's just not going to happen for a lot of us. So when you see things like Chris Moore celebrate on the sideline, that's a genuine thing, I feel like, where he's very comfortable with his place on this team, what he's going to have when he comes back. And I think everybody, as much as we love Leor Berman, think how much these guys love him. I mean, honestly, you're talking about a guy that has been there every single day, has sat on the bench a lot, played some, not a whole lot, and is now seeing this type of success. I can tell you from personal experience, when I've been on Leor's side of the coin, I've also been on the other side of the coin where you're celebrating somebody like Leor. When that happens, that gets the team hyped up. And now it's becoming a thing where you don't even like react to it anymore because you just expect it. Oh, Leor Berman's coming out in the court. Things are going to be just fine. If not, we're going to have some great play from him. I mean, it's just a great story to watch. I promise we're not going to just spend the entire night talking about Leor, but you guys keep bringing it up, and I love those type of stories. Not related to the game, but since it's related to basketball, I'll bring it up. Auburn's Aiden Holloway, that commit, got his 5th star. Remember, stars don't matter when they come in. What they leave is what they matter with. But yes, that is a good sign for the future. Perception game, all that type of stuff. Rob says, good game, but even better finish. Now, if you look at the game entirely, that second half start was awful. But, and someone else brought it up earlier, the great thing is how you finish overall. So you went from establishing your dominance, losing it almost completely, and then reestablishing it and maintaining it the rest of the game. That's very impressive for this team. I really like that on the road, even against a team like LSU that clearly does not have an offensive identity, that's struggling to kind of keep themselves together. Report was there, I think it's Justice Hill. I wrote it down. Justice Hill left the team before the game. And I'm not really aware of, like, I don't follow LSU outside of the times that we play them, how important he was to their roster. But obviously a team that's dealing with some things right now. There were a couple of times you said words that you shouldn't have, in a good way or a bad way. Was this celebrating on those dunks and stuff like that? Defense played great. Offense is beginning to pick up. Honestly, I'm kind of to the point now where I just anticipate our offense not, putting up big numbers. But if that defense maintains what it is, we know that offense can find some type of rhythm now and get itself going and not just stay stagnant. There's been so many years, even when Auburn's had a good offense traditionally, where there'd be a night where we just couldn't get it going and never get out of that funk. That's happened very few times this season so far. I think the Georgia game was probably one of them. I guess maybe USC, but we were kind of down to the wire with that one too. But yeah, defense playing great is going to be Auburn's bread and butter. It's going to inform the offense and set things up for them. Devin, I was just thinking about this, and I know we've kind of hinted at this a lot. I think the meme culture, unfortunately, is dying. 232 in 9 minutes. It's fine, but we'll see. Maybe it'll continue to pick up, but she usually keeps track of that for us throughout the streams. I'm worried I might be having a seizure because I kept smelling burnt corn dogs. That was an interesting one. Let's see here. Coach Pearl's had 4 straight seasons with a 5-star. That is correct. With that reclassification, that would be correct. And it would have been 5 because Isaac was like 1 year removed from that. Or is he part of that list? I can't remember. I'm hoping Traore steps up eventually, and man, Chance Wistery, I have no doubts for him after watching him in Israel. It was great to see Traore tonight get in the game. Again, nothing really significant for him tonight other than what we've normally been seeing. He played 7 minutes tonight, but he gets on the board, and gets to participate against the team that he was supposed to go to. For those of you that maybe didn't know that or forgotten, he was committed to LSU. before Auburn. And because of everything that happened with their former head coach, all the NCAA issues that they had, decided to decommit and flip to Auburn. It was a big thing back in the summer for Auburn, or spring, I guess I should say. And he's here now. Now, obviously, he has not arrived, right? But you love seeing him get to do that to the team that he was supposed to go to, right? Good to see you, Neil. And Kevin's here now. Good to see you. Good. All right. Leighton says Flanagan was 2 for 3 from 3-point land tonight. Those two kicks started the offense on a cold streak too. I'd say tonight you look at the guys who really got things going for Auburn. Wendell and Jalen obviously you'll see that because they're the two top scorers tonight. But I think Lior, as we've mentioned, Allen tonight really got some things going for Auburn at the right time. Can we give some credit to my man, Zep Jasper, who comes out in the first shot and knocks down a three? Zep Jasper is not going to make a ton of those, but he is making them when it counts. And I can't think of a better way to kind of get your offense, which gets off to a slow start usually, than one of your shooters that's not really known for that, to make a three at the start. Zep Jasper, I love that. There's a confidence level that's starting to awaken amongst all the guards that I like, almost to a fault. And I'll talk about that in just a second, but let me continue to get through some of these comments to make sure that we are getting to all those. I agree. Please do make sure you smash the like button if you doubt. We got a great crowd assembling here tonight. Want to continue to grow that if we can. Defensive struggles will benefit Auburn all season. High-paced shootouts concern me, though. Defensive struggles, meaning games, will benefit Auburn. Yeah, so that's going to be the big concern when you get to Alabama. And they talked about that some tonight. Of course, they're all gushing about it right now. But they are the best offensive team in the SEC, and they're one of the best in the nation. If not, there's probably an argument up there for the best. So what happens in both matchups, home and away with Alabama? It's going to be interesting to see. I think it obviously favors us in Neville, but you don't want to get to a shootout on their home turf. WT, we have to be a hard team to game plan for, with different players stepping up each game. Absolutely. So one of the great things about this team, which I feel like I talk about these same storylines all the time, but it's true. One of the great things about this team is the fact that you have so many different guys to find minutes for. It's also a problem too, because you're going to have people that feel like they're not getting their minutes, or people that aren't stepping up are going to lose their minutes just at that moment at the very least. But the same thing of the problem that can be a good thing for you in terms of your roster management stuff is a problem for the other defenses. And how do you play against guys when you never know if it's Jalen Williams night, if Lior Berman's going to gun you down with 3-point shots, if you don't know if Alan Flanagan is going to continue to find himself? You just don't know. Like, people the last couple of games have shut down, Janai Broom. I think it's 4 points tonight. I haven't looked at his exactly yet. And yet we're fine. That's really interesting, because last year, what happened when you shut down Jabari and Walker? They just had bad games. We lost. Janai had a terrible, statistically not as great of a game tonight, and we did just fine. Let's see here. USC got smashed. Are you talking about Southern Cal or South Carolina? I bet this could be a huge win for us. Let's see. Huge win for us in terms of LSU being, I don't know if LSU is going to be a huge win on the resume, but getting a road win will always be a good thing. We are 15-0 when Wendell gets a three. Yeah, I would say we have high success when he makes a three. That 0 for night that he had is long gone. Was their stat that Auburn has the most wins in the last 5 years in the SEC? I think that is awesome. That is, I don't know exactly what stat you're quoting there, but I do recall that being posted by the Auburn basketball account recently, maybe even this week. Maybe it was last week, by the SID Marlene Navor. I think she posted it, saying that this team is, or Bruce Pearl has had the most SEC wins and out of all the SEC teams in the last 5 years. It's very impressive. what he's accomplished in such a short amount of time. Rise Life. I'm gonna let you keep telling your dad jokes. But we're not gonna give you any more credit for that. Too many fouls is a problem. Trouble for us not getting to take fast breaks. Let me look and see how many fouls we had tonight. Personal fouls for Auburn, 16 to their 13. Sure, we sent them to the free throw line 17 times. So the problem becomes for that, if you are going to be giving up a lot of fouls, if they're a good free throw shooting team, which based on tonight's performance, LSU was not, just like us. It's not as big of an issue, but for a better shooting team, free throw or otherwise, that would be a big problem that could arise. So definitely don't want to do that a whole lot. Chris Moore comes back, maybe not for South Carolina on Saturday, but in time for A&M next Wednesday. To me, when you've got a team as deep as this, you don't rush anybody back from a injury until they are absolutely 100% ready. This is not a, Walker Kessler's out and we got to get him back out there because he's our shot blocker. We got guys that can fill every role. We will talk about the free throw percentage in just a second. We're going to get to all the stats. Let me just take a quick peek at my storylines, things that I may want to make sure we mentioned. This, it has nothing to do with the game itself, but I just want to make you guys aware of just some of the things around basketball. So I believe this is Coach Matt McMahon, the former Murray State coach. Auburn and Murray State had a really good connection last year with the whole meme stuff and us beating them not posting the post-game score. That's kind of what really launched all of this stuff, and then them getting on board with us. Murray State has a great history. So if I have that correct, that he did come from Murray State, I think LSU got a good one from them and will be in a really good position. It's, Will Wade, for all his problems, was a decent basketball coach and a really good recruiter, almost too good. But I think they're going to be fine given the talent they can acquire. And it's just going to take some time to get some things back on track. One other thing from the game tonight before we talk about the stats that I want to mention. I think you probably all noticed it. Especially if you listen to the broadcast tonight, you will have heard them talk about how much hesitation there was. People kind of acting like they're going to shoot and then going to shoot, or going up in the air to shoot and then throwing it off last second. I saw Wendell do it. I saw Lior do it. Jalen did the kind of hesitation shot. So to me, I think most people saw that tonight and were like, people were really uncertain about it. And yes, that's true. But to me, it's not about being unsure of whether we're going to make this or not. I think you got guys that are starting to really feel that freedom, and the rewards of that freedom are starting to show themselves. And so they're feeling a little bit quicker to shoot, and then they're kind of wanting to reel that back in and be unselfish. So there's a little bit of that, I want to call it yin and yang dynamic there, but give and take of, I have this freedom, we're making the most of it. Do I do this, or do I still be unselfish and pass the ball off again? So I didn't find that as a big ordeal tonight, but it was interesting to see so much of that happen tonight. I thought the meme thing was Memphis. It happened all throughout last season, but who knows when it officially gone? Only Auburn memes knows. All right. Let's look at some of the stats tonight. Can we ask everybody, before we get too far into it, right now in the chat, will you post your player of the game? Who is your player of the game right now in the chat? As you're posting that, I will give you guys some things to consider. Your top two scorers tonight: Wendell Green and Jalen Williams with 14 points apiece. Janai Broom with 4, Zep Jasper with 5, Alan Flanagan with 8, Katie Johnson with 8, 8-point night for KD tonight. Trey with 0, Yawan Traore with 2, Lior Berman with 8, Dylan Cardwell with 4, and I think both of those were dunks. Really, that was the other thing I wanted to mention. I'll come back to the stats. If you want to see the difference in Auburn and LSU's team tonight, look at the difference between the two on what happens when a ball goes up right underneath the rim. Auburn's guys crash to the basket, especially those that are closest to it. LSU guys just kind of like sit there, turn around, and wait for it like that. Auburn's crashing, they're not. So that's the difference really in the two teams right now. Who was y'all's player of the game? Let's see what you guys said. Jalen Williams, Jalen, Wendell, J. Will, and here come our Leors. Yep. Listen, I would love to give it to Leor tonight, but I don't want to. For me personally, I don't want to go just off of emotion. I think you're just as valid if you say Leor Berman tonight. But I think who was it brought up here? Wendell seemed to control the game for us tonight. I think that would be the case. Unfortunately, Jalen's kind of fallen to the way of we're expecting this from him now. So it's not as exciting when he puts up, tied for most points in the game. Still great. Love what he's doing. But you got to kind of look for other reasons to be super excited about him now because he's setting that bar even higher. So tonight, I think probably you guys have a good point that Wendell is player of the game. A lot of other people seem to think so too. But if you say Jalen, if you say Leor, I think you've got a valid case for all of that tonight. What they provided was, essential. All of them. I will vouch for Kyle. We did not get to play ball at school with each other due to different schools, but we played lots of church ball and pickup games. I'm not legit. I could shoot the ball. I was not a good dribbler. That's why I was a swingman. I just literally ran around and set up and waited for people to get the ball to me. We did not get to play. Sorry, guys. We're going to have me and Blake are going to have a little moment here. There was one year we were supposed to play, and I can't remember why. Maybe you were out or I was out. But our schools played each other one year, and I was really disappointed about that. So I think y'all ended up beating us, regardless of whether either us played or not. Yes, it is a team win. All right, back to the stats here. I think, I'm just going to say Wendell Green for me is the player of the night. 14 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, only 1 for 6 from the 3-point land, 3 for 3 from free throws. That is a big win for me right there, but a lot of exciting things on this. The fact that KD Johnson tonight got 8 points, not that that's a sign that he's turning things back around completely, but I like seeing him higher up in those points, and maybe that's going to help him kind of right the ship a little bit. And I forgot Alan Flanagan fouled out with 5 fouls. Completely slipped my mind tonight. All right, team statistics. 44% from the field for Auburn. That's a good night. Pretty decent. 29% from the field for LSU will not win you a game. They are struggling with a lot of things. Offense is just one of them. Pretty good 3-point percentage. 1 out of every 3 shots was going down. 33% for Auburn. Free throw percentage. Somebody asked this earlier. 64% for Auburn. 65% for LSU, basically the same thing. So I'm not even going to say somebody won that category. Both teams were horrible at free throw shooting. LSU just had more cracks at it tonight because we gave up some more fouls. So what are the 3 stats we always talk about to focus on that help tell the story of the game? Free throws, which we just talked about, basically a push. No really advantage there. Turnovers, 10 for Auburn, 11 for LSU. Not really an advantage there either. Let's look at rebounds. 41 for Auburn, 38 for LSU. LSU wins the offensive rebounding category, but just could not make really anything come of them, or at least enough come of them tonight. So when you look at all those, even though there's not a big discrepancy, Auburn does win kind of the advantage in all of those categories combined. Leor is showing that he deserves more minutes. I agree, but are you going to sit Chris Moore, who's been essential to this team when he's healthy? Are you going to sit Jalen Williams? There's a lot of people that are starting to throw hate KD's way, but mark my words, as soon as KD gets this thing figured out, you're going to be wishing you never said that. So that's my question when we say somebody deserves more minutes or someone deserves to not play or whatever. Who are you going to change out in favor of them? Just be thankful that we have so many guys to run to. He has to have better pace and under control, but that's not KD's nature. KD is one of those players you just let him do what he wants to do. Maybe you mean Chris Moore? We don't know yet. I think a timeline I heard for the last game was 10 games, which would put him not for South Carolina, but for the next game, Texas A&M. That's when I would expect that. I think somebody else said that too. Let's see. Those first 2 free throws by Broom that he missed both made me cringe. Yeah, it was not a good start to the night for me on free throws. You can know how much I was screaming inside, at least, about that. All right, let's try to find the stat. That's the big difference tonight. What's the big stat that told the story of the game? We've walked through some of the more important ones. Haven't seen a lot of discrepancies here. I think I've found it. We'll come back to it unless we find something differently. Second chance points tonight, basically the same, 7-9 in favor of LSU. Bench points, very similar, 22-17 in favor of Auburn. Points in the paint. That's a good one right there. 32 for Auburn, which has not been out of the ordinary for them the last few games and this season, frankly, to LSU's 20. So good amount of points in the paint for both teams, but Auburn just did a lot more with that. Auburn had a lot of blocks tonight, but so did LSU. 7 for them, 5 for LSU. Steals, 8 for Auburn, 5 for LSU. Assists tonight, 11 for Auburn, 7 for LSU. Now, I would say that points in the paint is probably a good one to look at for the big stat of the game. The one that I noticed a little bit earlier that I haven't said yet, my eyes are trying to find it right now. Where did it go? Points off of turnovers. Auburn 15, LSU 2. To me, that's the big stat tonight. The amount of turnovers that Auburn had, the few that they had, only 9 on the night. 10 on the night. Auburn did not get hurt by that as much as LSU did, with basically the same amount of turnovers. That might be the big stat for you tonight in terms of what made the biggest difference. So, all right, so here's what we're going to do. Starting to round out our shows, we traditionally do want to share with you what's coming up next on the network and also what you can do to help the network. And then we'll take final comments and questions throughout that. So keep them coming in and I'll come back to them. Tomorrow morning, remember, 8:30, we'll have another Good Morning Auburn show, about a 15 to 20 minute live stream. You can watch the replay if you'd like, but we'd love to have you here live talking about something recent that's going on with the Auburn family. Haven't really decided what tomorrow morning's topic is exactly yet, but as always, we usually have fun doing it. So I hope you can join us or watch the replay on that. Our next scheduled live stream will be the next post-game reaction show, other than the Good Morning Auburn shows for Thursday and Friday. So join us for those if you can do that. Check out the other links in the description. You can be a subscriber and be part of the giveaway that we have going on right now. You can be in the Booster Club. You could be a channel member, any of those things. There's also, you could drop super chats. There's PayPal or TeePublic store if you want to help support us financially, keep the lights on here. You don't have to do that, but those options are available if you'd like to. We just appreciate you being here, smashing that like button, and choosing us as your post-game live stream of choice. So thank you guys so much for doing all that for us, whichever of those you're able to do. Okay, let's scroll back through some of these comments and questions, and we'll kind of round out our show. Auburn plays Tennessee and Bama twice in the next 2 months. It's going to be fun. It's going to be tough, though. It's going to be really, really tough. We are getting better defensively. I think we've been pretty good defensively, but maybe better as well. But the offense, I think that's something you're just going to have to get used to. They're going to struggle for most of the year, as long as our defense can hold the game up for us and prop it up and give the offense enough time to rise to the occasion. I think the biggest stat is that Auburn got the ball in the hoop more than LSU. Yeah. Do you think that clothesline hit and foul and window could have been detected? I'm going to be honest with you, Leighton. I was not paying attention at that point super well, so I didn't get a good look at that. I heard some discussion about it. So, I mean, what do you think? Let me know. Sounds like the way you're phrasing it that you think so. Successful season, single-digit total losses for the year. We still got a long way to go, and it's the SEC after all, so let's wait and see before we claim that. We will get another crack at Georgia in Neville, and I don't think it'll go well for them. Let's see here. Anything else? You're going to the tip-off club to South Carolina. I said, well, that's awesome. Hope you have a great time there. Well, I think that's going to do it for another post-game reaction stream. Again, I'd love to see you guys for tomorrow morning, 8:30 Eastern time, or on the replay for another Good Morning Auburn edition. But if I don't see you there, stay tuned on the channel for more content, or on social media, or in podcast, anywhere. We got podcasts coming out later this week, so check those out too. And I hope to see you on the next post-game live stream as well. You guys continue to be the best little family within the Auburn family. And I appreciate you so much from the bottom of my heart. And I enjoy doing this with you guys. So thank you for allowing me to do it. And thank you for continuing to be here and being part of this little family. Till we talk to you again, War Eagle.